President Trump will hold two events in Minnesota tonight. He will participate in what's being billed as a round table on protecting American workers before holding a campaign-style rally in Duluth. The president lost Minnesota to Hillary Clinton in 2016 by nearly 45,000 votes. For more on this, let's bring in Mike Mulcahy. He is the political editor for Minnesota Public Radio News and joins me now from St. Paul, Minnesota. Mike, thanks for being with us. What can we expect the president to focus on in his rally tonight?
Well, you'd expect he'd talk about jobs and he'd talk about his tariffs. You know, he's going to the 8th District of Minnesota. It's on the shores of Lake Superior. Duluth is the major population center there. But the main industry there is mining, iron mining. And he's going to probably make a case for his tariffs that they've been good for the mining industry.
Is that going to be a hard case to make? I mean, how have the tariffs so far hit residents in Minnesota?
Well, a lot of people in that 8th district and a lot of people who are involved in the mining industry have really been looking for help from the federal government because the steel industry has not been doing well, as you know, over the past few decades. And I also think that President Trump feels that they can flip the 8th district. You mentioned that Trump lost in Minnesota, but he won the 8th district by 16 points. At the same time, a Democrat, the Congressman Rick Nolan, won there by about 1 percentage point. So the Republicans are pretty high on the fact that they think they can flip this district this year.
Is the president popular throughout Minnesota, or is there a little bit of an urban-rural divide in that state, as in many?
Well, he didn't win here. Remember that. This is the first visit he's making to a state that he didn't win in 2016. But he came close. He came a lot closer than most Republican candidates have for the past 40 years. In fact, Minnesota hasn't voted for a Republican since Richard Nixon in 1972 for president. Now, the state is divided, and Republicans feel that Trump is still pretty popular here. Democrats are hoping he's not, and they're really trying to take him on.
And is Minnesota important to the president ahead of the midterms, and why?
Well, it's important because they think they can flip this seat in the 8th district. There's also an open seat in the southern part of the state in the 1st district. They think they can flip that one. So that's very important, especially if other states, if there is a blue wave and the House were to flip, it'd be very important for Republicans to take those two districts in Minnesota. I think it's also important if he's running in 2020. He came close in 2016 here, and he has said before that he believes he could have won if he had visited the state one more time. And I think he may also be looking forward to 2020 with this visit.
Right. He did express some regret in not campaigning a little bit more in Minnesota. So how are Republicans in the state reacting? Are they welcoming the president's visit, or are some of them wary of cozying up to him?
Most are welcoming him, but there are some who are staying away. You know, Minnesota is a very interesting case because I think we have maybe 4 of the 8 congressional districts that could be in play this year, which is very surprising that you would have, you know, any districts in play, but to have 4 in one state is pretty amazing. And there is a district close to the Twin Cities, the western Minneapolis suburbs, where there's a Republican congressman, Eric Paulson, but Hillary Clinton won the district. So Democrats have an eye on that one. They think they can flip that one. There's another district just south of the Twin Cities that is held by Jason Lewis. He's a first-term Republican, and Democrats think they have a good chance of flipping that one, too. So we could see at the end of this election year that 4 seats flip, 2 to the Republicans, 2 to the Democrats, and maybe it all comes out a wash. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, right?
Mike, what are the most important issues to Minnesota voters? I'm curious whether immigration factors up there, because as I'm sure you know, the president just announced he will sign an executive order keeping families together at the border, and that previous policy has caused a lot of furor. So I'm wondering, is that an important issue to Minnesota voters, or what do they want to hear the president talk about?
Well, we're a lot closer to Canada than we are to Mexico, but that certainly has been a big issue here in the past few days, just as it has been around the country. So that's important, but also the economy is important. And you know, the president made this pitch for the forgotten men and women in 2016, and a lot of those people live in that area where he's headed today, and they are still pretty high on the president. They think he's looking out for them. You know, they work in mining, very industrial, the steel industry. They think the president is doing okay. The economy is certainly a big issue. Trump himself is an issue, especially when you get closer to the Twin Cities and those suburban areas. You know, the question is whether Trump himself is the best representative of the Republican Party.
All right. Mike Mulcahy, thank you so much for your Minnesota insight.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.